Ethers are important class of compounds because they serve as very good solvents. For example, in a Woods reaction where water will actually react with sodium, ether comes into place. So they are extremely useful whenever you want a mildly polar or non-polar solvent, and also when you want a solvent that is aprotic, meaning something that cannot give you H plus easily. Common things you need to know about ether are, you need to know about their IUPAC names, you need to know about their boiling point trend, your solubility trend, and your dipole moment. Your boiling point of ether is comparatively higher compared to the corresponding alkane, but it is going to be less than an alcohol of equal molecular mass. Ethers and alcohols are functional isomers, so they will have the exact same molecular mass, but they can differ in boiling point. The reason alcohols will have a higher boiling point is, unlike your ether, alcohols can form hydrogen bonds. Because of hydrogen bonds, obviously molecular mass is same, but your boiling point is higher. When it comes to solubility, ethers, the CO bond is mildly polar. So compared to an alkane, it is mildly polar. So because of that, it is much more soluble compared to an alkane in a polar solvent. But still, ether is a non-polar solvent for the most part. Compared to an alkane, it's a little bit polar. It is capable of forming hydrogen bonds, but it does not have a hydrogen by itself. So it can use the oxygen in it to bond with another hydrogen. So that is a property that we can see in problems later. Your next thing you want to know here is your bond angle. So when you take your alcohols, we just saw in the alcohol lecture that alcohol has two lone pairs and two bond pairs, which is exactly same for an ether. The only difference is in alcohol, the oxygen is attached to one hydrogen and one alkyl group, whereas in ether, both of them are alkyl group. As a consequence, the alcohols have an angle that is less than 109.5. So if this is tetrahedral ideal angle, alcohol is going to have less, but ether it is going to be more than tetrahedral because the bulky group repel each other. So even though there are two lone pairs, the bulky groups need more space, so ethers have more than ideal tetrahedral, alcohols have less than ideal tetrahedral. You want to remember that. Now when it comes to our naming, common name is extremely simple. You have two alkyl groups attached to O group. So how you are going to do it is, you are going to name both the alkyl groups followed by the name ether. Now if the alkyl groups are same, then you put di. For example, if you see here, we can name ether as methyl propyl ether, ethyl propyl ether. All these are two alkyl groups attached to either side of the R group. Now here the naming is going by alphabetical order, and if there is same group on both sides of the O, then you can label it as diethyl ether or dialkyl in general. Now ethers are capable of showing metamerism. We have seen this in isomerism lecture before. So if you take diethyl ether, you can have two carbons on each side, it becomes diethyl, or you can have three on one side, one on the other side, it becomes methyl propyl ether. So methyl propyl ether and diethyl ether are metamers. When it comes to IUPAC, ethers are visualized as, if this is an ether we are talking about, it's visualized as, this is an alkane, this is an alkoxy. So the alkoxy has kicked out the hydrogen. So it is seen as alkoxy derivative of alkane. So what we can do is, when you are given an ether, we can say it as alkoxy alkane. Now which one gets the alkane backbone is the one that is longest in chain. For example, if we take this is the longest in chain. So this will be methoxypropane, not propoxymethane. So this is basic nomenclature for naming an ether. Ethers can be synthesized from your corresponding alcohol when they are heated with acid, but here the temperature is extremely important because the alcohols can undergo elimination reaction if the temperature is too high. Here if you see, there are two reactions where the exact same alcohol under a slightly lower temperature it gives the corresponding ether, but a higher temperature gives the alkene. Now, when it is giving an ether, it is undergoing a SN2 substitution reaction where the rate determining step has two entities on the left side. So, it is substitution nucleophilic, the nucleophile and the substrate, both of them. So, you want to remember this SN2 because it can come as a statement question, otherwise there is nothing much to it here. The second way of synthesizing ether is something most of you already know. It's Williamson's ether synthesis. Basically, we have your Rx reacting with RO, Na, RO minus Na plus. Alkyl halide with sodium alkoxide or potassium alkoxide. Now, this will give you the corresponding ether. At neat level, what you need to know is you have to choose the alkyl halide and alkoxide properly. For example, if this is the ether I want to synthesize, there are two possibilities. I can do this or I can do this. So, let us say this is 1, this is 2. So, 1 would be alkyl halide plus CO minus Na plus sodium methoxide. This is 1, and 2 would be O minus plus CCl. Okay, both of them seems to give you this, but the problem here is this is a bulky group. Because it is bulky, this can behave as a nucleophile and give you this, or it can behave as a base and eliminate a hydrogen and Cl, dehydrohalogenation. So, that is a side product, whereas here I cannot eliminate because there is only one carbon. So, I can use this to get the corresponding ether I want. So, here in NEET they may give you the options and you have to come up with the best example. So, here the key here is you want to use a alkoxide that will try to behave as a nucleophile, not a base, number 1. Number 2, your alkyl halide should be less bulky. This is more bulky, so it tries to undergo elimination compared to substitution. Less bulky, it will try to undergo substitution compared to elimination. So, these are the two ways that Williamson's ether synthesis can go. Extremely simple depending on the choice of the reagents. If instead of here sodium alkoxide, we use sodium phenoxide, we get the corresponding aromatic ether. So, you can get RO and the aromatic ring. So, we will see this in the examples. What is the best way to prepare aromatic ones when there are elimination products are also possible? Those are the two ways of synthesis of ether that are in your syllabus. We will jump straight into the reactions of ether. There is an important reaction that is in your syllabus and it comes many years. R prime, acid cleavage of ether. Most of the time this is HI or HBr. When you have acid cleavage of ether, you can either cleave here or cleave here. It does not really matter when you write it as R prime, but when you write it as actual groups, you need to know how it is going to be. So, when you have primary and secondary, you do not have a tertiary or benzylic or allylic, you have only primary and secondary. Okay, that is all you have in the ether. Then what will happen is the X will go with smaller R group and the H will go with larger R group, and the reaction goes by SN2. This is very simple, but the moment you have 3 degree benzylic or allylic, the reaction will go through SN1 carbocation mechanism. For example, so this is tertiary. So what will happen is this will give you the corresponding carbocation. Why 3-degree benzylic and allylic go through SN1 is because they stabilize the carbocation. We have seen the carbocation stability before. So anytime you have on one side of ether any of these three groups that can stabilize the carbocation, then you have to go through SN1 carbocation, and that joins with the X minus to give you the corresponding alkyl halide. So here X goes with a smaller R, whereas here the X went with a larger R. It's not really because it's larger. In this case, it is because it gives you the more stable carbocation. It goes through SN1 mechanism. This is important for you. And the product of this reaction is your ROH and RX. The hydrogen gets attached to this oxygen and X gets attached to the R prime, however you want to say. But you have to look at the question very carefully. If they say excess, if the HX is in excess, the alcohol that you get in this case, here COH or whatever ROH you get here, this will get converted into alkyl halide as well. So if there is excess of HX, the products are always going to be RX in both cases. Here for example, excess of HX will give you RX and R prime X. Same it will be here, the tertiary with X and C with X. So see whether above or below the arrow they give you HX excess. If not, you end up with the alkyl halide and an alcohol molecule. The other reaction of ether is basically cleavage of ether or hydrolysis of ether that we saw in the synthesis of alcohols. Basically, you break the ether into two different alcohol molecules. So we don't have to go through it here again. We will go into the aromatic ethers. And the most common among them is OCH3. You have to remember the name of this molecule, anisole. Now, when it comes to aromatic ethers, there is only one reaction that you have in your syllabus, electrophilic aromatic substitution. Now, just like your phenol, ethers are plus R minus I. So, they will give you para greater than, ortho greater than, much greater than, meta. This is extremely straightforward. You do nitration, you get para nitro corresponding ether or para nitro anisole compared to ortho nitro anisole, so on and so forth. That's easy. Now, one thing that you want to remember is your phenol versus anisole, which will have a higher plus R effect. Your anisole looks like CH3 group is pumping electron into oxygen, so the oxygen should give to the ring. CH3 gives to oxygen, oxygen gives to the ring. The logic is correct. But the problem is the orientation. The R group here or the CH3 group here is big. So, because of that, they push the electrons in the oxygen just to accommodate themselves in such a way that the electrons cannot participate in resonance very easily compared to your phenol. Because of that, phenol is much more plus R compared to your anisole. So, phenol will undergo electrophilic aromatic substitution much faster than your anisole. This has come 2 times in NEET. They will give you 4 different compounds and say which will undergo electrophilic aromatic substitution more easily. So, it will be a phenol compared to your aromatic ether. Otherwise, all the other set of reaction for phenol and ether is going to be same. Electrophilic aromatic substitution is always going to follow this order. But in phenol, we had one other property. I can convert it to phenoxide where my ortho is greater than para. That cannot happen in your ether. These are the basic ways of synthesis and properties of ether. It's an extremely small segment of alcohol chapter. We will look into more of problems and we will get stronger in the corresponding unit. Thank you guys.